Hello everyone, welcome to Placement Buddies. So today we have Shubham Prakhar with us. He will share his interview experience of Samsung. So welcome Shubham, welcome to Placement Buddies.
Hello.
Yeah. So Shubham, briefly introduce yourself to our audience.
So, hello everybody. I'm Shubham. I'm currently working in Samsung Research Institute, Noida. So, I am basically an M.Tech student from NIT Agartala, and I did my B.Tech from K University. And as everybody knows, I'm we were quite a average student in NIT Agartala, but this placement opportunities were really good, and I hope I cracked good company.
Yes. Shubham, first tell me what was the eligibility criteria of Samsung and what was the selection process altogether?
So when Samsung came to our college, so they asked 70% throughout history. It means that in 10th class also you must score more than 70%, in 12th, and then in your BTech to postgrad, you have in every exams you have to score more
Mhm.
than 70%. So this is their first criteria, and I think this was their only criteria that they have mentioned.
Okay. And then what was the selection process altogether? How it started?
So it first always starts from, they are online tests, and they ask you basically three questions, and they gave you, I think, as far as I can remember, they gave us 2 hours, 2.5 hours almost, and we had to solve three problems in it. And if you ask me the kind of questions they ask in that online test, it's basic questions. Basic means, for example, if we have a dynamic programming, so they
Mhm.
will ask the problem of dynamic programming. For example, this that coin problem, or maybe the finding path problem. This basic problem they will ask. And one they asked graph theory problem, basic discussed algorithm you can use and solve it. There was nothing more. It's if
Mhm.
you know basics, solve it. And one they asked this array questions, those popular array questions where they ask sub array sums and all those things,
Mhm.
what they asked. So it is mostly about popular questions that they will be asking, and they will be based on the core concepts. That's it. No more fancy questions.
Okay. So there were no resume selection or some active verbal questions.
No, I do not think so, because they did not ask at that time for our resume. Once we gave our exams and we qualified that round, then we went
Mhm.
for interview. Then our resume had been asked.
Okay. Okay. So after that, you gave your online test, right? Sorry, online interview, technical interview. Yeah. So tell us something about that, how it happened.
So my online interview was a little bit different. So what
Mhm.
happened at that time is, they asked me that it was kind of the December time, and our semesters were ending, and they asked me to have for an interview. But on that day, it was Saturday, so no interviewer was available on that day. So
Mhm.
they canceled my interview, and they rescheduled my interview around 28th of December. And at that time, I did not know at what time they will reschedule, and I went to Sikkim.
Mhm.
And on that day I was traveling. They asked that, okay, today is your interview. So thankfully one of my friend had his laptop. So I sat. I was that time I was returning from Sikkim, and I was in Darjeeling. So I was
Mhm.
sitting in a hotel in Darjeeling, and I was watching this Kanchenjunga hills. And there I gave my interview. And the interview was like, as I said, the way they started, it was, they will start with your introduction, that what you have done. They will see your resume, what, and they will try to figure out by resume that, okay, what they can ask from you.
Okay.
And they start basics from this, that, okay, tell me in which language do you code, and why you like that language much, and the
Mhm.
kinds of project that you did, why you
Mhm.
did in this language only, and what is the importance. So they ask the importance of a project, how you have contributed, and how did you think that your project could be helpful in society, and all those things that they ask in normal interviews. And then they will ask in object oriented programming. So before Samsung, I also gave 2 3 interviews, and I saw that the first question they will always ask is object oriented programming. So they will ask about classes and objects and how these things works. And once they will be sure that, okay, this object oriented concepts, then they will come to you, and they will ask this basic memory problems. like, okay, do you know what is the static memory and all the dynamic memory? And after that, slowly they will start asking array problems. So for me, basically, he started with array problems and he asked me basic this three sum problem.
Okay.
So we already had done this two sum. So three sum was we already practiced it. So, but you do not have to show them that yes, you already practiced these questions, and you directly give them the answers. But you do not. You should not be so late. They will find out that okay, you know the answer, but you are trying to cut time.
Manipulate.
So,
Yeah.
so what you have to do is you have to talk to the interviewer. So that is skill that I got to know after two, three interviews earlier. So you have to talk to the interviewer, and I was saying that okay, what I can think of right now is we can do this and we can do that. So we were just having a conversation. So and we become very comfortable, and I was giving him some answers, and then he was suggesting that okay, you can do this, you can try this. So it was a two-way problem solving. It's not that he is just seeing how I'm solving and he just at the end he will comment. Okay, we were having a conversation and I was solving it, and in the middle of it he was teaching me. He was saying me simple things. Okay, the way you write this code, you should format it in this way. It will look more beautiful and all those things. Debugging will be easier. So these things they were because obviously when we are in college we do not know the way to write programs. Okay, we were be able to solve problems, but the way we write code should be able to read by other people's also, because once you leave a company, other people have to read that program, and moreover, it should be written in such a way that we can debug easily. All those testing mechanisms can work on it. So he was teaching all those things, and we were having a chit chat about all those things. And then he asked a basic dynamic programming problem, the same thing that the pathfinding problem.
Okay.
So we have, I think, in NIT Agartala we have good coding culture. So
Yeah.
we had practiced enough problems to solve that. And in that also, the same technique that one has I used that I also learned from many YouTube interviews that I have watched, and I by personal experiences also, that you just have to talk to the interviewer. Whatever you are thinking, you just have to talk to him. You have to make diagrams, and you cannot just simply speak things. You just have to first tell him that how why it works, your solution, why it works, the diagram, and this is how I think. He what actually is looking is your thinking process. And I have seen that if you will clearly tell him your thinking process, he will ask you less. The interviewers will ask you less questions because they got you. They got that okay, you know how to solve this problem. But if you are not able to, thoroughly express yourself, so what they do is they ask more problems to see that okay, do you really know these things or not? Because they have to test you on more parameters because you are not opening up. So you just open up. They are like your friends, and they will simply not judge you, and they will even help you in those interviews. And third was a graph problem. So these three problems they asked, and no fancy. As I would say that in the coding round also, they didn't ask fancy questions. They are testing your basics. That do you know basic problems solving skills of different kinds or not, on different data structures or not. So after these things ended, then they go for fundamental subjects, and
Okay.
in fundamental subjects, they simply start that I have seen. They always start from databases. So they ask databases that, okay, do you understand why normalization works? Okay, and this basic SQL query they can ask, or maybe they will not ask if you think that SQL query is not needed. But they always ask that how can you make database faster? How B plus trees are used in it? So they can ask this. For me, they did not go in depth. Just they asked that, okay, do you what data structure do you think is used in storing? So you can I simply said B plus trees. So they did not go in depth, but he asked me that if you have to fasten your database search up and queries, then what will you do? So I simply said indexing, and then he didn't go in depth. That's it. And after that, he asked this what we say operating system problems, and I can say that they always ask same problems in operating system that we have to be prepared with, the trading concepts. And the second in operating system, they ask this what we call deadlock problems. We always ask that what is deadlock and how do
Okay.
you think we can solve deadlock problems. And these two things they asked, and I do not think they asked much. Yes, they asked, so they will ask little bit about do you know the difference between 32-bit, 64-bit, and all those things. These basic problems uh, they ask, and otherwise they do not ask much. For me, they ask these only from these two subjects, but maybe they can ask if you have a different kind of resume, because I had a resume from machine learning background.
Okay.
But that guy that who was interviewing me, he was not from machine learning background, so he didn't ask me machine learning problems. But he asked me about my projects, that how it helps, but he didn't ask machine learning problems. But if a lot of people who show this full stack development, from them they ask this networking problems, that how IP works, and about networks they ask a lot of problems. But for me, they do not ask much. And at the end, as it goes, then they ask behavioral problems, basic
Mm-hmm.
behavioral problems, that okay, why you have choose this company, and how do you know anything about Samsung, and the employer
Mm-hmm.
relations about Samsung. So this is basic they ask. I think
Mm-hmm.
you do not have to answer this question at that point of time. You write a perfect answer for yourself and just
Mm-hmm.
mug it up, and
Yeah.
they always ask this question, and you have to just say this. So
Yeah.
that is what that my full interview experience.
Yeah. So as you mentioned that your resume, I mean, you were from machine learning background, and the interviewer was not from machine learning background. So the project you did, so they did ask about anything from the project.
Yes, yes, they asked. Like they asked me basics, like what algorithm that you are using, how
Okay.
you
Okay.
have cleaned data sets, and what was your accuracy and all those things. I think everybody knows these things, so he was
Mm-hmm.
asking this problem. But I do not think that he asked. He did not go into depth.
Depth.
Like
Okay.
okay, you made a CNN, how your layers were working and all those things. He didn't
Yes.
ask all these things in depth. He just asked from surface, and
A
he asked
surface
that
level.
okay, why do huh, so he was asking basics, like how do you think your problem to help people? Do you think you could have improved more? So we can all in machine learning we can always say that our
Yes.
data does not or maybe we do
Some general
not.
questions like, yeah.
The general questions that he was asking.
Okay. Okay. So what
And
do you
one
want to
more thing
suggest?
that I
Yeah.
will
Yeah. Yeah.
say, one more thing I will say, that before you are going for interview,
Mm-hmm.
a mail comes, and email ID of interviewer is also always given. I do not know about other companies, but in Samsung and other interviews that I give, mail email ID were coming. Through that email ID, I used to search the profiles of the interviewers on
Exactly.
LinkedIn, and
Exactly.
you have to see that okay, what they have worked on, so you can expect harder questions from their domain, because what they are expert in, you cannot simply talk on surface on those topics. So you just understand, you see on what topics or on what field they have worked, and you simply try to prepare in depth on those topics, and then you can answer things in depth. So that is the best way to and answer your to go through your interview.
Exactly. Actually, that is the one thing I also always do. And yeah, so I was just asking that what do you want to suggest to your juniors or the future aspirants? What kind of project they should do before going to the Samsung interview?
So I think that when you are when you are choosing a project, choose from the latest things that are happening right now. And what I have seen from my projects, that whatever shines works best. It means that for example, I had a project in which I was removing haze from environment. So my interviewer was seeing my results, that how it is happening. If you are doing something that is happening inside operating system or something, you cannot show actually the results, you cannot show. So if you are doing some project that is visually appealing, I mean, even if it is not strong from the core, if it is visually appealing, they will love it. They will love it. For example, I saw one of my friends did this. He was playing this game. He automated a game where he was opening his hand, and the car was moving, and he was just closing his hand, and it was stopping. It was very simple, but the game was automated. So this, it's not tough. It's actually, you can do this in just 15 to 20 lines, but the
Mhm.
kind of appeal it has, it's so good. So it matters a lot. These impressions matters a lot, so it impresses. And the second thing is, like, do not do things that are too much hard. I mean, it maybe you have worked so hard, but if the interviewer will not connect to it, I do not think it is worth it. But
Yeah.
if you have worked hard, I mean, if it's a good project, it will obviously shine. I'm not saying that, but
Mhm.
if you ask my suggestion, I think we should do things where we have to work less and we should get results far better. Like this is how I work.
Yes, yes, yes. When did you start your preparation and what all the subjects did you prepare? Theory subjects basically. I just mentioned I just wanted to mention our viewers are most of the viewers are from B.Tech background and you are from M.Tech background obviously. So what do you want to suggest to the B.Tech students? What kind of subjects they should prepare before going to the Samsung interview?
I mean, this three basic first, your databases should be strong because most of the companies that they are hiring, they will be
Mm-hmm.
giving you a role of full stack developer, back end, front end, or full stack developer. Mostly people are taking these jobs. So they're expecting you to be good at databases. They're expecting you. So you have to good at databases. And the second is you must be good at operating systems because basic bugs comes because of lack of experience, lack of understanding that how operating system works, how this deadlock things work, how memory is being created, basic problems, and this cache problem and all those things that we read in operating system. It is very important, and when you go to jobs like full stack developer and moreover this core software development, it matters a lot, memory matters a lot, speed
Mm-hmm.
a lot. So you have to be thorough with operating systems. I will not say that you must know everything in operating system, but the core of operating system, how it works, how cache works, how this round robin works, and how by how much time your process will get time. All those things you should be thorough with that how these things are working.
Mm-hmm.
And then second subject that second I first already said that databases should be strong, and the third is you must know this networking. You should know this OSI model, this TCP/IP model, how this subnetting works, how this IP addressing works, these basic things, and you must you they will always ask you one question, and you must be able to answer very deeply. When you hit a URL on your browser, what happens? If you can answer this question, it means you know networking. So you
Okay.
must answer in depth that okay, let's start from the beginning. How this DNS is how first will be from application layer, it will go below, and then after creating a packet, how DNS will be resolved, then how
Mm-hmm.
IP goes, all the things you have to answer. Then you know that you know network. So this is how you should approach these three subjects. And one more subject that I will say you must know is through on in mathematics that you have graph theory and this logic problems. I wouldn't say that that will help you in interview, but I will say that that will help you in being a good programmer.
Okay.
That I have seen in my life that when I started learning this problems where I was using this logics and propositions and all those things, that helped me in asking better questions. When a programming question used to come, I used to ask an exact problem because I have seen sometimes in programming you approach in some way you will not be able to solve a problem, but
Mm-hmm.
approach in a specific way you will be able to solve that problem. So to approach in a specific way, you have to ask a specific questions. To ask a specific questions, you must know logic and proposition. That okay, what can I propose here?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that this is what you can use as a tactic, this subject, to ask better questions so that you can solve your programming problems.
Okay.
And since I'm from M.Tech background, for
Mm-hmm.
me it was a different experience than a B.Tech student because
Yes.
since I was preparing I came in NIT Agartala
Mm-hmm.
by writing it. So my theory subjects were already good. I would say that my programming was average, but once I came to NIT Agartala culture, I met with people and I understood that how important programming is. And one more most important thing is you can always read from sources, but people who are doing coding, they can teach you small simple tricks and techniques how they look at a problem. So when you meet your seniors and when you meet your classmates who are able to solve problem in a really good way, you must not ask answers, you must ask them how do you think. When you saw this problem, what was your first thing that came to your mind? You
Mm-hmm.
must take how you think, you must not take what is the answer. So this is how you should prepare.
Okay. Okay. So after giving the interview, did you get an idea that you will be selected?
See, when I was giving that interview, I did not answer only one question. I don't even remember what was that question, but I didn't know. It was a simple question, but I forgot that. So I was not able to answer that question, and that interviewer did not mind much. And I was thinking, let's see, because in previous two interviews that I gave, I had confidence that okay, no problem, I can crack this.
Mm-hmm.
And since I didn't do much mistake, I was like, see, if the competition is really tough, then it's going to be hard. But I already calculated because most of the students who were like top in NIT Agartala, they were already selected. So they were
Okay.
not sitting knowing that I'm in the line. So I knew that I will be getting a call.
Okay. Okay. So, thank you, Shubham. You gave a detailed interview experience of Samsung. You shared it very beautifully, and I think it will help all the juniors, all the future aspirants to prepare for the interview. And yeah, thank you for coming to our channel, and hope you have a great future ahead.
Thank you, man. Thanks a lot.